The dark web is a subsection of the internet known for nefarious activity. And although many people have heard of it, most people don't know exactly what the dark web is. So in order to learn more about it, our own Dan Patterson and Graham Cates have asked a cybersecurity firm to investigate what type of information they could uncover about them on the dark web. Joining us now is Graham Cates, and he is investigative reporter for CBS News. And also joining us is CNET senior producer Dan Patterson. Thank you both for being here. It's so interesting to me that you are actually asking them to go after you to see what they can find. Anything good?
Well, one of the best ways to learn about cybersecurity, because it is kind of abstract, is to look for yourself. So we applied some of these search techniques, or we asked a firm to apply some of these search techniques to us on the dark web. The dark web is a network of websites, much like the ClearNet, the regular web we use every day. The only difference is that these websites are encrypted, so they require a special browser and special software. Often the software is called Tor, the Onion browser, but you can use many encrypted browsers to get to the dark web. Once you're there, there are search engines that allow you to scour the dark web for your personal details.
And this isn't the first time that you guys have asked them to kind of look and see if you can find something about you. What was discovered? What kind of information is kind of sleeping there in that dark web?
What's really interesting is that for each of us, they found totally different sets of information. Dan's was a little more personal for himself. His name was on a spreadsheet with his email address and a long list of other people who had similar information. And for me, while there wasn't specifically information about me, an old address where I live popped. And all of these people who lived in this building were deeply exposed. They were these things called fulls dumps, and these are like portfolios of information about people. We're talking not just your name and your email address or just your credit card number, but all of it put together so you could really get that person's full identity.
So how is this all being collected then? What entity is compiling all this information and putting it in this one place to be seen?
Yeah, so the threat actors involved, which is kind of the euphemism that we use for hackers, are a pretty broad spectrum. They can be activists, hacktivists, and lone wolves. They can also be organized nation states. We know that Russia and China have engaged in dark web activity, as well as gathering information about individuals at the U.S. State Department. And they can be criminal organizations. In fact, we spoke to Terbium Labs. They're a company that helped us find out this information on the dark web. And their spokesperson, Emily Wilson, had quite a bit to say about that. Let's take a listen.
It could be nation states, it could be organized criminal groups, it could be organized criminal groups that aren't even regionally based. It could be components and contractors from around the world. One of the things here is that the dark web makes resources widely available for people to learn how to commit different types of fraud or how to commit different types of cybercrime. It doesn't just provide the raw materials you need, it also provides step-by-step instructions and a whole community of other fraudsters who are willing to help you out.
So that's interesting. It's basically a play-by-play on how to hack someone's life. So where's this information then being spread to?
Well, for starters, it's being put on the dark web where people can buy and sell it. But it's sometimes it's just being dropped there so that any nefarious actor who wants to have it can just have it. That's called dumping it. And what's really disturbing is, on a personal level, there's not that much you can do. When you give your information to a corporation, you're kind of hoping that they're going to protect it from the very hackers who are eventually going to spread it around.
Is there anything that you can do to protect yourself, a preventative action that you can take personally?
Well, you know, like Graham said, we can take some steps. We can use two-factor authentication. We can use password managers to protect our passwords. But really, we are in the hands of those who we entrust with our e-commerce, those social media sites. Our private information is only as good as the cybersecurity experts that are hired by those companies.
So once this information is compromised, what then is actually the harm of having it out there on the dark web?
The harm can be pretty significant. It may look small compared to, say, guns or drugs, but oftentimes your information does not age. Your social security number, your street address, this stuff is really hard to change. Emily Wilson had some good stuff to say about this.
Data is transmitted very quickly. There's no ship time. Criminals buy it, they get it instantly, and they can cash it out. And data is often good for a long time. You know, if somebody uses your credit card and there's a fraud alert, you'll get a new credit card number. that's a loss to you and it's annoying, but it's not too bad. But what about your social? What about your name? What about your address or your driver's license numbers? These are data points that can be exploited for decades or for a lifetime. And once that's out, it's nearly impossible to get it back.
I want to switch gears just a little bit, Graham, and talk about the latest scandal involving Facebook. Of course, we know that the company is being sued by the Attorney General in D.C. over the data mining of Cambridge Analytica. So earlier there was this hearing regarding unsealing a document that could potentially be very important in the case. So what kind of documents and what do you think the Attorney General is looking for, and what would we hear there?
What's really interesting about this document is what both sides, that's the DC Attorney General and Facebook, agree that it has, which is that it says that an employee or more than one employee at Facebook as early as September 2015 flagged Cambridge Analytica, that's the political consulting firm, for its data practices with Facebook. And there's two sides to this. DC says this is proof that Facebook was aware of issues with Cambridge Analytica far earlier than it ever acknowledged. And Facebook says, look, this was an employee or two communicating about some things they had heard speculation about, but it wasn't a substantive discussion. And that's what this document has.
I feel like, though, Facebook has been apologizing a lot recently when it comes to security of their users.
Yeah, it's been a pretty constant flow for about 3 years now.
All right. Well, thank you both for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.